Are you trying to decide if it's time to change jobs or start a new career? I know that big life-changing decisions like this can be very uncertain, and you're not alone if it's causing you sleepless nights. To help today, I'd like to share 3 questions that I often go through with my career coaching clients in a similar situation. Question number 1. How can you get really clear on what makes you happy or engaged at work? My clients often tell me how they wish their careers were more intentional. And what they mean by that is that they often accept opportunities because they feel the pressure to progress, or they're trying to get away from an environment that they're fed up with, or sometimes because they crave new challenges. But the truth is that these reasons for change don't correlate with what makes us engaged and happy at work in the long term. But the issue is that we rarely take the time to figure out what makes us happy. And we might imagine what makes us happy, like that new job title, but the reality often turns out to be very different, and the effects of the new don't last very long. So how could you get closer to what you want and tune out those social pressures? Well, one way to do this is to think about a time when you were very energized and satisfied at work. What was going on there for you? Who were you with? And what was going on? What type of people were around you? Can you see any patterns there? This is the first step to figure out your strengths and your values, which is often the foundation of career coaching work, because knowing this is the only way to have a chance of making the right career decisions. Question number 2. What is the cost of doing nothing? And this one is important to think about if you have been unhappy for a while, but you've been too busy to make changes to your career. Or if you think of career change as something very risky. As humans, we have an interesting way of looking at risk. We tend to overestimate and overanalyze the risk of making a change, but at the same time we don't spend enough time thinking about the risk of staying in the status quo, even though we know that the world around us is changing and the security that we might be holding on to could be an illusion. This is why it's an important one to answer. So I'd like you to think of yourself 10 years from now. What is your life likely to look like if you haven't made the change? What price are you likely to have paid? And it could be things like your health, especially if you're under stress and you let it build up over the years. Or maybe it's your relationships, maybe things like missing out on time with your loved ones, or even putting your relationships at risk if you're always unhappy and frustrated because of work. Now, if at this point you feel like resigning ASAP is the way forward, I would like to bring it back to earth a little bit and introduce question number 3. What are you in control to improve or change in the job that you have right now? And I get it. If you are at your limit and you're thinking about resigning, this may be the last thing that you want to think about. But hear me out. It's really worth taking a very honest look and trying to understand what could be your part in why things are not working out. And the reason why it's important is that any unresolved issues in how you show up at work now are likely to follow you to your next job or your next career. So let's take work-life balance as an example. So if you're working very long hours and you're under a lot of stress, you may be blaming it on your employer. But if you are the only one sitting there in the office every evening until the cleaners come, I bet there is something you could do. Maybe it's about delegating more effectively, or maybe it's about learning to say no and setting firmer boundaries. Now, I get it. If you're fed up, you may just want out, which is fine as well. But think about it this way. A job that you're not planning to stay in anyway is the perfect risk-free testing ground for learning new habits. So if you need to put firmer boundaries, it's the perfect time to experiment. And what might happen is you either find out that changing your approach was all that you needed, or if you decide to move on, you will be in a perfect situation because you'll leave old habits behind. Okay, that's it. These were my 3 questions to help you think about your next career move. Now, I appreciate it was a very quick run through, so if you would like to do more work on this, you're welcome to go to my website and download a workbook that has more information and exercises that I go through with my coaching clients. It's in the resources section. Thank you very much for watching, and I'd love to hear how you get on.